I'll go there. All right, I think we're back. So we just finished up an overview of building on Galoy, a look at setting up the infrastructure. And now we're back with Arvin, an engineer at Galoy, to dig into the Galoy API. So for anybody who's thinking about, whether it's for Legends of Lightning tournament or somebody that has a project built on Lightning and wants to integrate with, Bitcoin banks that are out there like Bitcoin Beach Wallet, Bitcoin Jungle. The Galoy API really provides the ability to interface and build on top of the Galoy stack. And so really excited to get a little bit of a overview and workshop here with Arvin to show anybody how to get started building on it. So Arvin, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. And hey, everybody. Okay, so yeah, like Andrew mentioned, I'll be building off of the previous session that OpenArms did, kind of going into our stack. So I guess with the API, what we want to look at is generally these sorts of things. Like how have we seen it being used to support community banking? I'll go a little bit into how the API sits in our stack and just some light things on what you need to know. I'll go over some integrations, both internally and externally. And then after that, can probably do a little tour of the actual API itself using some tools that we have to explore it. So yeah, let's get started. So Bitcoin Beach, the Bitcoin Beach wallet in El Zonte in El Salvador, I guess, is kind of the first major consumer of our API. It's like there's a mobile wallet that uses the API directly to do everything that it does. It's been piloted and tested, and it's now rolled out to tens of thousands of users in El Salvador. And it's kind of our go-to to kind of demonstrate what the API can do. So the app is available in Play Store and App Store. I think it's, if you're in the US, maybe not, but APK is also available on our repos, and there's different places where you can get it to play around with it. So I guess moving out from Bitcoin Beach, there's a few other communities that have sort of taken the API either directly or indirectly and made use of it. I think what we like to think of is, if you think of the API as sort of this feature set that is exposed that helps you to build a community, but build a Bitcoin community in your locale, using the different capabilities and tools. Like that's kind of how we think of it, and there's different ways to get access at it. So Bitcoin Beach, for example, has they have their own instance and their own mobile app, and they kind of run it directly. Bitcoin Jungle is another project that took our code. All of our code is open source. Most of our code is open source. They took our code, replicated it, stood up their own instance, forked their own mobile app, localized it for their needs, and they run a completely separate sort of stack with their own API endpoints attached to it. So that's one way to tackle it. But there's other ways to get at it too. Like that's a very intense way. Maybe you probably need some developers on your team with expertise across the stack, but you don't necessarily need to go all the way that way. There's a few other communities, Motif NGO in Peru, for example, Prior Bitcoin in Brazil, Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala. They pretty much use the API that's provided by Bitcoin Beach to onboard their local communities. They use the Bitcoin Beach wallet, and that gives them sort of all the capabilities that you'd need from a Bitcoin community bank to be able to start that sort of on the ground process of onboarding merchants and users and starting to educate people about like how Lightning works. So there's points to jump in across levels of technical expertise and across like what you feel you're capable of doing. So it's not just that you need to be fully technical to be able to use a stack to sort of get your local community going. So I guess looking a bit more at the actual stack now, this is sort of a selection from how our system works. And in the previous session that OpenArms did, he sort of went through everything below the API, everything that sort of powers the API. So if you think of the API as sort of this layer here that the external world communicates, that's the thing that I guess would be interesting to end users. So in this session, what we're going to do is look at everything above the API, things that come in and use it for different applications and things. And I think like a good way to think of it is that the API itself, that's the thing that we want to think of as the thing that sort of exposes all the different bits of functionality and the thing that you can use, that you can leverage to sort of power your community building efforts. So first, it is a GraphQL API. So why GraphQL? Why aren't we using REST or something else that people are maybe more familiar with? I guess so. The first point, GraphQL is really great for low bandwidth environments. I mean, if this, I guess this is more for the developers, but if you're used to working with REST, which is a resource-based sort of approach, usually if you want to do something, you have to combine multiple requests. Maybe you're looking up multiple different resources and then combining them. Maybe you're using the results from one lookup to do another lookup, things like that. GraphQL sort of helps aggregate some of that logic into single requests that you can send to the server. So it kind of helps you save on bandwidth and save on complexity and that sort of thing. If you're stringing multiple things together, for example, we have a query where you can get information about the user's accounts, the account's wallets, and then the wallet's transactions all in one single request. So it allows for that sort of single request fetching, which is nice. Second thing also is that it allows you to sort of prune your requests back to exactly what you need. Let's say, for example, I'm looking at like the wallet or a user or something, and all I want is the user's username. I don't need to pull like all of the user's properties, all the user's attributes across the wire to get it into my app. I can request just the username, and it makes the payload, I guess, a lot smaller to come into the mobile app. So it's great for like the communities that we started working in, like in El Zonte, for example. Sometimes bandwidth can be a constraint, and this sort of thing is great for working in those sorts of environments. I guess over on the dev experience side, working with GraphQL can be a bit more ergonomic in certain ways. If you're as you're constructing logic and stuff, because everything is kind of interwoven in these single requests, it's easy to extend a request, to change a request, to do different things and sort of move quickly with your application versus trying to figure out how to string together multiple endpoints and how to be efficient and how to sort of move from resource to resource. So that's a positive. And I guess it also, there's a feature that we'll soon be exploring called GraphQL Federation, where you don't need to host the entire API. You can bring in pieces of the API from other places. So say, for example, you wanted somebody wants to work on a tangential feature. Like, I mean, a good example could be our maps that we currently have internally, but it's not really a part of the core system. That could be something that's tangential. Like somebody else can work on that and we can bring it in through Federation. And to the end user, it looks like a single API, but there's multiple servers running and multiple hosts and different things hosting different parts of the API. So, I mean, just as a, like, this is a nice little anecdote from Twitter. Danny, who runs DZ, he was looking into GraphQL the other day. He came across API, and I mean, he had some positive things to say about it. So that I think that's great. And also, I guess as folks are thinking of building for both fun, yeah, because we have this API that's interoperable with a bunch of things, maybe there's some pathways to integrating this API with other services. Maybe there's ways to expose some of the things that people have built for the Galoy stack to other APIs. So that could be something potentially. But yeah, just something to think about as I go through the next sections, kind of exploring what's possible with the API. So yeah, let's look at some of the integrations. Like, these are the practical ways that we use the API right now. So in our stack internally, we have a mobile app. That's the thing that most people are familiar with. It has all of the bits of the API that you can think of, on-chain and off-chain, sends and receives, transactions, wallets, accounts, table sets, everything. It's all kind of bundled up in there. So that's a great sort of first reference point. And like all of our internal things are open source. They're at our repos. So if you go to like GitHub, GaloyMoney /GaloyMobile, you see the mobile app, and same for any of these others. So we have the mobile app, we have the web wallet, which is kind of it's sort of a version of what we did in the mobile app. It gives users views on their transactions, send and receive capabilities and stuff without necessarily needing to download an app. So it's another way to access an account if you're a user. We have other services that we attach. So things like we have merchant pay pages where you can go to a link using your username and use, like have a receive only view where you get a keypad and you can type in numbers and stuff. So it's great for like kiosks and storefronts, and if you want like employees or whatever to sort of receive payments on your behalf. Again, the code is there, and later on in this presentation, I'll kind of just go through some of how this uses the API to achieve some of these things. And then something like Lightning Address. Lightning Address is a Webflow kind of, and we've implemented it using again just GraphQL API calls. So I'll show some of that a bit later as well. If we look at community remixes, so there's some interesting things that come from different people who've been integrating with our stuff. Like versus like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, like in Guatemala, they had a specific need where like our system right now is only USD. It's USD only. We're working on multi-currency, but it's not quite here yet, and it'll probably be a little while before it gets here. But they needed something now, and because our stuff is open source, they can literally look at what we've done with our web wallet and sort of re-implement it to their needs. And that's what I think Fabu, somebody from Bitcoin Lake, did here, where he created a pay page where you can put the local currency, Quetzales, but you can put any other currency as well and have it generate invoices against the Galoy API. So that was something that they did. The Bitcoin Jungle folks, we have a maps endpoint in our API. They took it and they made it into a web view. And now they have like a web view on their website where you can go and see all the merchants in their area and across the entire Galoy map, for that instance. So they've kind of taken our mapping endpoint, API endpoint, and remixed it into a web view. We also have an integration with Albi, where you can import your wallet directly into Albi, and the connector. So the way that the Galoy wallet connects to Albi is through a connector interface inside of Albi, but each thing is implemented using API endpoints and stuff to be able to achieve this. So that's interesting as well. And then this one is one I found really interesting. Bitcoin Jungle did sort of a payment forwarding thing. They have a BTC Pay server instance set up for their users, and they sort of made each user sign up with their username on their Galoy instance. And what they did is they in this code base here, they used the API to generate invoices and pay folks out automatically whenever they receive a payment in their BTC Pay server store. So there's lots of different things you can do with the API because it's all open source. It's kind of what you want to bring to your community, what your specific community needs are. And if we look at other third-party integrations, there's, if you're looking at having merchants be a part of your community, there's some interesting things coming down the pipeline. There's like some Zaprite, for example, is an invoicing service. They've integrated Galoy. Tianki has a set of merchant tools. They've integrated Lamasu, ATMs. They've also integrated Galoy. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the API, all permissionless because it's an open source thing. You can just take it and remix it and do whatever. And I mean, if I were to, so now that we have an idea of, I guess, all the different things you can do with it, we can take a practical look at what the API looks like. And what I want to do here is I sort of just want to give an idea of like how to navigate it. But the way that it's designed is that we have tools available to let folks sort of explore it and discover the API for themselves, and like construct queries and learn by example and look at different repos and stuff. So first thing I'll do, there's 3 things I want to show today. One is an API Explorer that we have available. The second is a playground where you can construct things and make requests directly against our APIs right now, like our live API endpoints. And the third is a Postman collection that you can pull down, import into your Postman. And there's a set of kind of pre-constructed queries and mutations that you can use to sort of see how the API works. Like it's stuff that we use in our different applications. So that's really useful. So let me jump across to the Explorer now and start with the live demo bit of this. Here we go. Right. So this is sort of a view on the on what the Explorer looks like, and all these links. I guess we'll share the presentation later, and all these links are in the slides. But here, for example, if I wanted to, like these things here are pulled straight from our schema, and if I wanted to, I could start constructing constructing queries straight from here. So like this is an example query. I can take this here and come across to the playground, put it in here, run it, and I get back a set of information. So globals is just stuff about the system. This particular user has an ID. There's some map markers for the user, that sort of thing. So if let's just try to construct some things that might be useful. So let's say, for example, I wanted to find out some more about myself, my user. So I just click me here, and it already starts to construct the query here. And then I say, okay, I want my ID number. I want my default accounts. I want to see when this account was created. Okay, I'll leave that. So we're in default account now. You see how it's sort of nesting. Now I want to get the ID for this default account. I want to see what wallets this account has. And I want to see what the default wallet ID is for this account. And now I can go into wallets. Again, we're just nesting in. And for each wallet, maybe I want to see, maybe we have different sorts of wallets in our system. We have BTC wallets, USD wallets. Maybe I just want to see the IDs for all. So I just do ID here. I want to see the currency. I want to see the balance. And if I take, so this query has been constructed just by clicking around, right? I can take this query, I can pop it into our playground here, run it, and I get all this information back. I get my user ID, I get my default account, which has an account ID. It's the same as the user ID in this case. I can see the wallets under the account. So it has like 2 wallets in here. One is a USD wallet, one is a BTC wallet. This one has this ID, this one has this ID, and this one is has a balance of this many sats. This is quoted in sats, and this is quoted in cents. And this is a staging endpoint. So these are all testnet things, but you kind of get the idea. It's a great way to sort of start exploring and figuring out different things. Say, for example, now, so like that's the query side of it. If I wanted to do, for example, a mutation. So queries are sort of just querying data. Mutations have like some change of state, some action. So let's say I wanted to do a mutation. Let's say I wanted to generate an invoice. I want to receive some money. So I'm going to do an invoice create, right? I want the invoice. I want to see the payment request. I don't necessarily need to see, all I want to see is the payment request. I don't need to see it. Maybe, okay, fine. Okay, let's see if we see Satoshis. But I copy this request. I come across here, paste it in. And here's the tricky thing. Because this one has an input, we need to provide some variables as well for this. So let's just look at what that could be. I think it's here somewhere. Is it here? Okay, no. Oh, there it is. Right. So input variable null. Okay, so I'll just type it by hand because I'm not seeing it there. But like any playground, it has a thing that helps you as you start typing. You can start just seeing things here. So I'm gonna create an invoice for the BTC wallet. So I'm gonna copy that from there. And what else am I missing? Is that it? No. So yeah, the intelligence sort of helps you as you're going through. Let's see what else I'm missing. I need an amount, I think. I do need an amount. So I want 100 sats. Let's see if that works. So I send that, and I get back a payment request. And this is a testnet payment request, but it's a real payment request. I can probably receive testnet coins against it. Let's see. Yep, so if I pop this in here, let's see if it picks it up. Does it pick it up? Okay, but yeah, it's maybe the service is giving trouble right now. But yeah, that's a proper payment request that you can use. If you're using the mainnet API, you'd see it here. You get the amount, it's 100. So you kind of get the idea. You can construct things from here, and you can show it in here. Now, if we're looking again now at, if you want to see sort of a set of pre-made things, we have a link here. It's in our GitHub repo. Let's see if I can find that. Yep, right here. So if you go to GaloyMoney Galoy, it's in source GraphQL docs, and I've linked it from the slides again. You'd see that like this collection, this Postman collection here, and a set of environments where we populated with environment variables that you need, and you can just download these and import them straight into your Postman. We have some instructions here for that. And then that looks like this. If you have, yeah, so you get like the admin API, the normal API, and some WebSockets. But you can do things against the admin API. So here, for example, we have queries again. These are all the queries that we use for different things. So if I wanted to see a transactions for a account query, here's how it's constructed. We kind of have the variables set out here as well. So you can use this to play around again with the API. If I sent this, I'm using the staging endpoint. And if I sent this against staging, I would get a response back, and I can see all the things that we'd use, say, in an app or something, like if I wanted individual transactions for an account. So this is also super useful for just exploring the API. You can click around, look at different things. Maybe I want to see my contacts. I send that request, it comes back. Maybe I want to see just different things. What's the BTC price? How does the app get price? You can see this thing here. There's lots of different things in here. There's a me query as well, where we just get a bunch of, okay, well, that's disabled for this one, but usually you get a bunch of information about the user in that one. I'm probably just missing an environment variable. Yep, there's balance. I can see all my balances across my different wallets. Yep, so that's kind of how that works. A very easy way to kind of explore the API and see what's happening. So I guess the next thing I'd want to show, if you're interested in sort of building, I think like these should be leveraged, just these little repos that we have that sort of demonstrate how the API is used. So I think I have that over here. Yeah. So like a mobile wallet, for example, you can dive into the code, dive into like, I don't know, app source. I think it's in components or something. I can't remember where exactly it is. Maybe it's in GraphQL. But we have yeah, here's like queries that we use, and you'd see how they're sort of injected into different places, and you can track it through and see how our app does different things. Same with the web wallet. It's all open source, so you can again just go through, find queries, and see how we've sort of integrated it. This is our Galoy, the merchant pay page. Same thing again. This one uses an endpoint where you can generate an invoice on behalf of a user using their username. So that's useful. So I'll take a look at that. And then again, in the Galoy API repository, we have sort of this, we host our Lightning address stuff here as well. So you can see here, for example, we use a user wallet ID query. This is a GraphQL query to get the person's username. And then we'd you'd use that to get different properties about the user. And eventually we'd come down to generating an invoice for the user using their wallet ID. And that's what sort of gets returned back out here as the LN URL sort of formatted thing. So lots of different ways to use the API to do different things. I think that would be interesting to look at as well. If we look at the remixes too, so maybe I can dive into one or two things. I think the payment forwarding one is interesting, so let's look at that one. If we were to look at, let's see where I have it. Here we go. So yeah, so in Bitcoin Jungle's payment forwarding service, what they want to do is pretty much take a username from a BTC peer service store and then generate an invoice for that user and pay them out based on what the store has received. And like that's what they're doing here. They take their username. This is a Galoy username. They would use that to sort of yeah, they actually go through the Lightning address endpoint, which is interesting. Yeah, so just go through, like, this is again the Galoy hosted thing. Go through a Lightning address endpoint, get back a response that has the payment request in it, which is what I was just showing, and then use that payment request to pay the invoice. So this is an interesting way to use the API as well. Maybe I can also demo like the Bitcoin Jungle. Sorry, not Bitcoin Jungle. I'll be extension integration. I think that'll be good. Where do I have that? I can probably do it right here. Actually, I'll do it down here. Let's do it in this window. Right. So Albi has this cool little feature where if you have a Lightning bolt with a Lightning address in your profile, it automatically detects that and is able to pay that person using WebLN. So if I were in Albi here, you can see that I use my Bitcoin Beach wallet. I can actually show this here with with the web wallet. So I'll just show these are two things using the API. And you can see here, this is my mainnet wallet. You can see the last transaction I did was 14 hours ago. And then if I come in here and I use Albi with the integration to send some sats, maybe I send, let's see if it works. Yeah, maybe I send 100K sats, demo, bolt fund demo. And this is calling our endpoint in the background through the connector, and it sent it, and it got back a response. But that's paid open arms. And if I come in here now and I refresh, I will, well, I should, let's see. Yep, there it is. 11 seconds ago, 100 sats and a 1 sat fee went out through that thing. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways to remix this. And I think I'll also just dive into the Albi code very quickly. Yeah, so this is the Albi code here, and this is the connector that they've implemented. And all they've done is pretty much, they have this interface. You just implement a few standard functions, get invoices, get balance. Maybe there's a send payment, yep, generate an invoice, check payment, that sort of thing. And you can see in each one, we've just pulled in queries. So here's a GraphQL query that I was just showing you. An invoice, send payment. We just looked at one of these in Postman. So like it's all sort of GraphQL endpoints that you can look at and play with to see how different projects have implemented it. Yeah, so that's remixes. Now there's a new thing that we're doing as well, stable sats, which is also exposed in the API. So how stable sats works, we did a whole presentation on it, but pretty much in a nutshell, it's BTC that's hedged using contracts. And yeah, so there's BTC that's hedged using contracts, and we can sort of send and receive these like hedged sats, like stable sats using the API. And I can show that now from Postman, just so you have an idea of how that works. So in the Postman collection, there's an entire section of just USD mutations. So if I wanted to, for example, pay an invoice from a USD wallet, so this is, let's see, an invoice payment send. Let's send it from a USD wallet. So I'll just demo this to show how it works. So I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna use the balance. Yeah, so my balance right now on my USD wallet is 110,000 cents. So that's like maybe, wait, sorry, this is staging. Let's go to mainnet and rerun this because I do not have that much. There we go, that's more correct. I have 870 cents, right? And that sort of maps back to my web wallet view. If I can find it, I have way too many tabs open now. I think it was over here. Yep, $8.70. So yep, it does map back to that. So 870 cents, I want to pay an invoice to an external service. Maybe I pay CoinOS, pay an invoice to CoinOS. I am going to generate an invoice here. This is just a demo to show how you can access table sats, because I think there's some interesting things around this for folks who are hacking on certain things. So if I hit receive, CoinOS is being a little slow. I'm not sure why. There we go. And I say I want 5 cents. So CoinOS, according to CoinOS, that's 240 sats, right? That's in their system. This is just a conversion in their system, I guess. And I can, no, that's fine. Yeah, so I can copy this invoice here, right? And let's just take a look at this invoice really quick to see what it is. So this is an invoice from CoinOS. If I look at it here, yep, 240,000, 240 sats. Well, 240,000 millisats, but it's 240 sats. So if I take that across to the API and I paste that, and you see it's a Bitcoin, it's a normal Lightning payment request, right? 240 sats, paying from my USD wallet, and I hit send, and let's hope it works. There we go, success, sent. And if I jump back to CoinOS here, let's see if it's been received. I don't know if they do a notification, do they? We can just go back home and see if it's been received. It's being very slow, but okay. So while they're loading, while CoinOS is loading, let's see if it loads. Wow, okay, accounts. This is a new interface. I'm not really familiar with this interface. It's interesting. Let's see if the classic one works. But yeah, so that would have come through on CoinOS. And if we look at our balance, like so this is not updated yet. So this is, remember, 111,800 and 870. If I update that, you see that it's gone down. So now it's 7 cents less. I guess it might have been a 2-cent fee. And the BTC is untouched. And I mean, we can actually look into that. Let's look at the transaction and see what got sent. Yep, 7 cents were sent. 1 cent was a fee. So our system calculated it as 6 cents. But that's kind of how it works. So you see it kind of left at 7 cents. So what's interesting is I do want to see this confirmed. I don't know why CoinOS isn't loading right now, but I do want to see this confirmed in CoinOS. Just to complete the demo, let's sign in and see if we can see it. Yeah. So while that loads, CoinOS is being slow today. While that loads, so that's kind of, you get a nice interface there into stable sats, and I think that's interesting for like if you have project ideas that wanna like mess with how do you do USD flows. Let's say, for example, you want to prototype a UX with Taro USD, or you want to see what it's like to work with USD and Albi. Like this could be interesting for that. We have an API right now, our main API that gives you that sort of exposure to stable sats. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's sort of an overview of the entire API. It's pretty accessible through the Explorer, through the Playground, through our repos, through the Postman collection. There's a lot of great references of people and projects that have used the API in different ways. So there's lots of things that you can almost copy paste to do simple operations in your own projects. And it's sort of like, it's this API that's picking up adoption. It's using a lot of different Bitcoin banking communities. And I think it's the kind of thing where I think we can see, like, as folks build things, we're looking to build out this sort of idea of a marketplace, and I think Andrew can speak more to that. But is that we're sort of curating this set of open tools that people can use, that people have built for their local communities, that they've found useful in their efforts, that I think would be interesting to sort of see spread out to other communities. Maybe somebody's figured out something in South America that they can use in parts of sub-Saharan Africa or something. So I think that's the idea here. I think that's about it for now. I guess maybe we can take some questions. Maybe Andrew and Ed can jump back on, and we can, if you guys have any questions or want to see more details on something, I can dive deeper on some code or something. Yeah, anything like that, I think we can do now.
Check. What's up? Thank you.
All good.
Well, I'm getting a decent echo. 1, 2. Cool. Arvin, I don't know if you. Yeah. Oh, cool. All right, that should work. It's awesome to see a lot of the projects that people have been building all in one place. I mean, and we've been, celebrating them, I think, one at a time as people are integrating. The maps, the ATMs. I think one that is probably a little early that we didn't have here, but that is really exciting is the seed signer integration. And like you said, the idea of the marketplace is actually, if you go back to the stack, the visual that kind of shows the full platform.
I don't have that one on the slide.
Oh yeah, no worries. But like, so the notion is like, Galoy is building, this open source, banking platform with the core ledger, Lightning Gateway, currency conversion with stable sats, and the opportunity to build stuff onto that and kind of recreate the financial system on top of Bitcoin is just really exciting. And we're starting to see it with some of these early things like Tianki, Amasu, TM, and like the ability to kind of come up with new ideas is really endless. Like you think about like lending applications and really thinking about like any applications that exist in the sort of the fiat world can plug in via API to this core banking layer that we're putting out there as FOSS software. And so I really think about look who it is, John, what's up? I really think about, I like the way that you set it up at the beginning of this presentation, which was, OpenNOM's shared everything about like sort of the infrastructure. There's this layer on top that is only beginning to be, I think, utilized, and really as it relates to Legends of Lightning, hackathons, hackers, builders. Yeah, so here's the slide where you think about the different types of wallets that could be built on top. You think about point of sale applications and experiences, merchant tools, dashboards and administration capabilities. It kind of goes on and on and on. And just a sort of a shill to the Galo. We actually have a we use discussions in GitHub. So at GitHub GaloyMoney, in the Galoy repo, we have discussions where people have come in and added ideas about some of the other things that could be built. One of the most recent ones is that integration with btcmap.org, I think is the URL, which like is blowing up, right? Which is like it's something that I think many it needs to exist. Many people have tried in various ways, right? There's a map in Bitcoin Beach Wallet. There's some other services, but btcmap.org is like seems to be the project that is getting out there and kind of like driving adoption. There's just so many people pinning merchants, right? And so thinking about building Bitcoin economies, this is such a crucial piece. So an integration with btcmap.org is something that I'm super excited about. I saw you gave away some free hackathon ideas as well. Like there's just so many things that could be built. So thanks for the overview. I think this is super helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, quick one, as you mentioned, btcmap.org, like it's super simple to get hacking with the API. Like this is something I've just been messing with. It's in Replit, and it's like a map playground thing or whatever. But yeah, like you can just have you can have a Galoy API endpoint thing here, map markers in this case. And I'm just gonna I would hit the main API with this, and I would pull in like a bunch of locations, and then I would hit OpenStreetMaps and I'd look for nearby nodes and just kind of just curiosity. I'm just playing with the API to see what's available. And like here, for example, this is a thing that's from our API, this place, but then nearby nodes is from OpenStreetMaps. And you can see like, oh, there's a bunch of nearby nodes and 999 Pana already exists and somebody has already tagged it in BTC map in the btcmap.org project with Lightning a little while ago. So it's super easy to pull in the API and just mess with it and do things like this with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sorry, Johns, I'll pass the mic, but within Bitcoin Beach Wallet, you've got multiple different um, experiences, right? And the Maps tab is one of those experiences that helped onboard merchants to say, hey, look, your neighbors are accepting Bitcoin. Like, do you want a pin on this map? And then from a user perspective, it's like, oh, where can I spend my sats? Oh, I can load the map. Another one is the earn section, which is education, right? And you can earn sats for taking some quizzes about like what is Bitcoin, what are sats, right? And it's fun, it's light. That's another thing where I know that with Legends of Lightning and previous Bolt Fun hackathons, there's a lot of focus on like you don't have to be like a developer to contribute to sort of the building out of the future of the financial system on Bitcoin. You could be somebody focused on education and to say, oh, like I'm going to find somebody who can interface with the Galoy API and I'm going to build educational modules right on top of that. And so, yeah, really looking forward to it. Johns, what's up, man?
When BTC Map and Galoy?
I feel like it should be a Legends of Lightning project. We've been chatting with Nathan. We even have a channel on Mattermost on chat.galoy.io where we've started some discussions. And so like, yeah, there's soon, 2 weeks, 2 months, I don't know.
TM. Yeah, that's actually a really cool project. I checked out the map this morning and actually realized that there's a farm like 5 minutes away from me that accepts Bitcoin. So I'm going to try go on Friday and get some pumpkins and maybe do some sort of like Bitcoin party.
Nice.
That's really cool.
I think they've cracked the user and sort of community experience well, where like, you know, inviting people to tag places, and really making it a collective effort to properly map, you know, everybody who's accepting Bitcoin. So I'm really excited about that project.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure what's. I think John's maybe trying to speak, but he seems pretty frozen right now.
He does look.
Obviously, so you guys have. Oh, there he is. He's back. Obviously, you guys have stable sats, which is obviously sort of synthetic USD at the moment in Galoy. We have had a few discussions, obviously, sort of tokens on Bitcoin. We spoke about stable sats. We spoke about sort of Tower and things like that. Is there a chance in the future that Galoy will also integrate sort of other Lightning assets into these sort of community wallets and things like that?
I'll provide my 2 cents. I don't know, and then Arvin, you
yeah,
can
you
either
got
correct me or add your perspective. I think that the future for stable sats is more about decentralizing it further, but still offering like USD to be held and transacted over Lightning. And so there is a Legends of Lightning project, which is stable sats and Collider integration, which is awesome. The first like weekly update was posted today. And so Collider is a Lightning native exchange, right? So StableSats currently uses OKX for hedging, but you know, any exchange, or not any, but many exchanges could be used, right? And the more exchanges, the more resilient, right? And sort of flexible StableSats can become. And then there's a couple really exciting possibilities. Free idea, but like you know, I know that Nicholas is really excited about integrating with like DLCs, right? So instead of using the exchange, you can use DLCs to create that synthetic dollar. And then yeah, so as StableSats version 2 is written in Rust, I think that makes it more possible for people to build on and with. And the last thing I would mention in terms of a potential path forward is it could even be run on a non-custodial wallet. That's kind of like at least like the vision, right? So it's an open source module, right? That initially was pretty tightly integrated into the Galoy stack, but I think the goal is that it becomes something that you know, can show up in many wallets and can use multiple exchanges, which makes it really resilient and flexible.
Yeah, and I mean, I just add to that, like to that question about stable coins and tokens and stuff. The way we're building stable sats, the dealer, is that you can pretty much plug anything you want into it, because at the end of the day, all it does is it stabilizes Bitcoin. You give it some Bitcoin, you tell it, hey, I'm giving you this Bitcoin now. This is the price. If I come back to you in a month, I want you to give me this much Bitcoin back, but like at that price. And however you want to do it, you can do it. If you want to go and sell the Bitcoin on an exchange and hold some cash in a bank, you can do that. If you want to go use the Bitcoin to buy some like USDT or something, you can do that. What we do is we take the Bitcoin and we hedge it on OKX, and that's something you can do as well. And then eventually with things like Collider and stuff, you can also take the Bitcoin and hedge it using those kinds of contracts. You can hedge it with a DLC. It doesn't matter. It's up to you however you hedge that. Like, you're the one who's making that promise. So it's kind of like you trusting that dealer is like, okay, if I give the dealer it, I know how the dealer is hedging it, but what they provide back to me is a stable balance that they kind of guarantee that it's stable. So yeah, I mean, it can totally integrate with eventually. It's a different model. It's a different model from, say, maybe like something like Taro or something. That is like they're leaning solely into tokens. That's the mechanism. But ours is kind of like this mix of custodial and non-custodial kind of thing. We can use non-custodial elements, and we can sort of focus the point at which you have to trust things on the custodian. and kind of remove elements of trust from different places. So that's why we don't do banking system. That's why we don't do stable tokens, because we don't want to have the additional dimensions of having to trust like the issuer of somebody like Tether or like a bank account. That's what, like, we want to remove those elements. But yeah, to your question, it's totally possible to eventually integrate some of those things. There's a lot of things we're exploring with stable sats right now.
Hey guys, can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my computer went through a whole episode there. Anytime I plug in the charger, it just decides that it doesn't want to cooperate, and well, that's what happened. Well, awesome presentation, Arvin. Also, the previous one with Open Arms, it was I got to catch only pieces of that one, but yeah, really awesome work. I remembered you said something about federation, so I was wanting to know if there was some federation between Bitcoin banking communities. Is that that are using the Galoy stack? Is that what you meant, or did I misunderstand?
So federation is such an overloaded term these days. So no, not federations between the, maybe, but there is that whole idea of maybe like a federated app, like kind of like how, I don't know, Discord has like different servers, but you can have like the single app and it's a federation of different servers. You can hop from server to server. I didn't mean that. What I meant is GraphQL has this feature called GraphQL Federation, where it's that instead of hosting a single server that kind of resolves the entire API, you can mix and match different servers into like, so like when the user comes to the API, they just see a single schema, but that schema is hosted in different places. So one server, for example, could be in charge of sending and receiving. One server can be in charge of user information. One server can be in charge of maps. And like you bring those servers together to serve this single schema. Right now, we serve it all on one thing and we manage the whole thing. But what it means is that, say, for example, I think there's a project in Bitcoin Jungle or somewhere in Costa Rica where they're rethinking the idea of the merchant map. And if it is that they wanted to re-implement that, they don't have to wait for us. They can just re-implement this entire feature set and then expose it through the schema that we currently use. But they would host a version of that schema, the map, like the map endpoint thing, like in GraphQL. And all we do is we point to that. We say, okay, our map markers selection now points to their resolver, and like to the user, they just hit an Galoy map resolver, right? But they don't know that they're going off to some other Costa Rican thing or something, and it gets presented as a single view. So like why that's significant is because it allows people to sort of innovate around the API and extend it in different interesting ways, and have it be pulled back in without having to wait for Galoy or wait for upstream to sort of implement some of these things and work on these things.
All right. Well, that's my contribution of a next in 2 weeks' time project for you guys. I would love to be able to do a push notification from one of these, payment request from one of these communities, and it pops up on the other one. But with regards to like use cases and stuff, it seems that the Galoy API and the backend stuff can definitely be used in more situations than just like the community banking aspect. You touched on some fintech, basically kind of ones. I know we've seen from previous Shock the Web, there was even like a payroll application that was also created. I guess, what are the traits of application, or what are the traits that a creator of a project might sorry, trying to figure out the words here. What traits of a project best suit the usage of the Galoy API, did you say?
I'm gonna let Andrew take this one because I think he works a lot more closely with that sort of thing. But just a quick one, yeah, that payroll app that came out of the last Shock the Web, there's two team members on that app that actually joined Galoy after that. Eni and Theo, both from Nigeria, so that was cool.
This is like, I keep hearing stories and stuff like this, and it's just like, it warms my heart so much that, hey, Legends of Lightning people who are out there, who knows, you could be working for Galoy after. I think that's what that means, right? But on the payroll one, right? Just before Andrew takes over, you see, like a Bitcoin community, like Bitcoin Beach or Bitcoin Lake or something, the organizational structure is quite similar to something that the payroll application might also fit into, right? It's like a organizational structure where there's multiple people involved. So that's kind of like the baseline that I have of like those attributes. But are there any other kinds of attributes that I may not be thinking about?
The way that I kind of think about this is we're the Bitcoin standard banks will exist on a Bitcoin standard. Those banks should be built on open source software, right? And we're trying to build the open source software that decentralizes banking and allows any organization from a community in El Zante, could be called an organization, to a major banking organization, to be contributing to building on open source software to which you think about today, there's like tens of thousands of financial institutions in the world. And with Bitcoin, like the paradigm changes, right? Because like Bitcoin changes the base layer. And so if we have a open source developer platform for building banks and applications, the merchant experience that which is essentially like a Yelp. We did actually a Bitcoin design call on this. It's like Yelp meets Craigslist on Bitcoin, which is awesome, right? And so the devs in Costa Rica decide, oh, this is something that scratches our itch, right? Like we need this. And with proper sort of, as Arvin was mentioning, like making sure that the code, the modules can be sort of plug and play. Like you can imagine that top layer of experiences ballooning to where if I am the town of, if I'm the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and like I want to move to become a Bitcoin bank and to like, accept taxes and things like this, I could say, oh, you know what? Like I'm going to launch a Bitcoin St. Pete wallet. I'm going to actually have a local like community banking lending platform. I'm going to add, the merchant applications. I need payroll. I need, right. And then all of these apps. So it's almost like the payroll example is a great one to me because it's like a nuanced but important experience in finance, right? And so like Zapright or the payroll project that Eni and Theo were part of. And, I see the, when thinking about building on Lightning, we're thinking about like, how do we replace all of the experiences that exist on a fiat standard into a Bitcoin standard? And so like, yeah, it's kind of, it balloons into pretty much anything.
Okay, so I guess that's a good starting point for folks thinking about like use cases and what to implement. Getting things that you're already using existing onto the Bitcoin standard using this API. I was also quite impressed with the level of documentation and stuff you guys have. There's of course the GraphQL playgrounds, the Postman collections and stuff. I hope they're up to date, guys, by the way. No, because I mentioned that because we think documentation in the space is so sorely lacking and so not really upkept, Of course, this is a big task, but I've gone through some of you guys' docs before, and yeah, it's really great that you have all these different resources for folks. So I really appreciate it, including this video, which now will serve as some documentation, I guess. So really thank you for keeping those things and making them available.
I forgot to mention there's a dev.galoy.io website as well that has a bunch of the GraphQL documentation and stuff. on it.
dev.galoy.io. I'm dropping it in the chat, so we'll get it up on the screen here for anyone.
Yeah,
Dev.galoy.io.
Oh, nice. I think I think a winning project for the tournament could be if somebody just said like, I'm going to improve documentation across open source projects, and like just like a team that's just, you know, like going around to different projects. I mean, we have room for improvement ourselves. And so for anybody listening to either of these presentations or digging in, and you know, if you have questions, like most likely other people do too. And so we try to use your questions and comments as sort of inspiration in terms of what needs to be improved or fixed from a docs standpoint. So yeah, chat.galoy.io is where our open chat is, and so definitely hop in there. Ask questions if something's not making sense or something feels like you know, either outdated or not documented well, and we're continually working to improve sort of the developer experience, so to speak. That when people come in, it's they don't have to worry about finding things; they can just worry about building, you know, their ideas.
Yeah, dev experience, dev relations, they're super important, and hopefully we see more of that happening in space. And you guys are definitely, you know, leading the charge on that. So it's really great on you guys. Just to finish my last thought, I was saying that there are existing applications and use cases and things that people have just kind of like come to expect in the traditional business or finance world. And a project could be something as simple as translating one of those SaaS products or whatever onto the Bitcoin standard. You could utilize the Galoy API for that. I think that could be quite cool for various use cases. You can also go a little bit more forward looking as well, and you know, look at the properties of Bitcoin and the Lightning Network and what that allows you to do. You know, payments in seconds or milliseconds as fast as lightning. What can you do with that, and what could you build with that? So you get a bit imaginative. One example of these projects that have transitioned from something that already exists, and actually I found out it's a $3 billion company, the traditional one. Calendly is a $3 million company. It's insane, and all they do is fix. I say all, not in a condescending way, but what they do is they fix the whole negotiating of booking times, right? And there's this project, Ellen Cal. I've kind of fell in love with it recently. You can, it's pretty much the same. You choose out of some time slots for someone to be able to book your time. But here's the kicker. They could pay in sats to book to make that booking. And actually, like, we thought about this, right? How about we start using it internally in the company in peak shift for any meetings that you want with the various people? So then you have to pay someone sats to have a meeting with them. Why not, right?
This is brilliant. This is aligns the incentives away from meeting overload and burnout. I like that.
Exactly. So you know it's a very important meeting, and later in the night it could get more expensive because I know Ed is yeah, he's doing a lot of night shifts here at Bolt Fun.
The question is just where do the funds go? Is it going to like a Friday beers fund or straight into John's pocket? Because
yeah, that's right. Well, that's like, I mean, the maybe just a last thought on that idea of like what replacing. It's almost like we're mechanics and we're replacing everything in the world with lightning, with shit built on lightning. And so like Vita, right, it has like, you know, pay me sats if you want to meet with me or talk to me, right, and which is kind of like fixing that spam problem. Or Stacker News, the Bolt Fun site with like the ability to like smash the lightning bolt or smash the, you know, the fire button and vote in sats. Like Bitcoin and Lightning provides the foundation for like just insanely better experiences on the web. So like super stoked on what you're doing. I appreciate you guys having us here. And like, you know, just I listened to the TFTC episode, and something that you said, which was like, you guys are really just trying to create for lack of a better word, the meeting place, right? Like where people go and they make of it what they will. And so like it's really cool to see all these projects, like people mashing up different ideas. I think the projects that are being built in this tournament will ripple into the future. Because there's a lot of talent here.
Yeah, and hopefully we see a lot of them getting built in Galoy. You guys have been awesome supporters. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your team and all what you guys have been doing. Arvinda, thank you so much also for the great presentation. Do you want to give some final words?
I don't know. I mean, people should just. I'm just excited to see what people build. Like, I think it's gonna be this 6-week thing. It's gonna be interesting when you give people that much time. And I guess, yeah, like catch us in the chats, in the Discord, in different Discord channels and stuff. We're always available if you have questions, if you wanna like jam on an idea or something. I think we're always up for those sorts of things. Yeah.
All right. Signing off, guys.
Cool. Nice, cool. We're looking forward to seeing what gets built with Galoy. I think there are a couple of projects that are already thinking about playing around with the stack. I saw Jay Deluxe actually put a comment in there. He said kids should join and build a piggy bank. Maybe we could get the Gen Bitcoiners to do some sort of like Gen Z community bank project or something. That'd be pretty cool. But cool. Anyway, guys, thanks again for coming on. It's always great to have you here. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what comes from this. And anybody's got any comments or feedback, obviously feel free to drop them in the comments, or where can they find you guys, or where can they get help from Galoy if they're looking to follow up from this workshop?
Yeah, chat.galoy.io is where all the devs, the whole team is kind of hanging out on a daily basis. And so that's probably the best place to get direct kind of engagement. But GaloyMoney on Twitter, and you can follow GaloyMoney, and then you'll find us retweeting and engaging with the team over there as well. GaloyMoney on GitHub as well. And then I guess maybe lastly, Arvin mentioned dev.galoy.io is the documentation site that really is a good starting place for devs wanting to build on Galoy.
Also, adopting Bitcoin's coming up in a couple weeks, guys.
I was going to mention when we were like, oh, that'll be built in 2 weeks. I was like, no, in 2 weeks, we're going to be heading to the homeland, to the Mecca of Bitcoin, adopting Bitcoin. If you don't have tickets already, what are you doing? It's going to be amazing. Awesome lineup. And you guys will, have a little bit of a Legends of Lightning satellite connectivity there, of course. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm actually, speaking of Calendly, I'm moderating a panel called "Let 1,000 Bitcoin Beaches Bloom" with like Herman from Bitcoin Akasi, Chimbera, Kyle from Pleb Lab. Like this like mashup of like these folks building communities on Bitcoin. Patrick from Bitcoin Lake. So I just scheduled time, and it was like we had +2. -4, -5, -7. I've become pretty proficient at like trying like mentally just living on UTC, but Calendly is still maybe Calendly like goes away as we just transition to UTC.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of time zones, but also like Ed's doing some community stuff. Maybe we get him as a speaker. Wink, wink.
Let's go.
All right, guys.
Yeah, why
Thank
not?
you so much.
Why not? Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank
We'll
you,
catch you
guys.
next time.
Ciao.
Ciao.